last jam, to the very end, we did that review, right? We all kind of asked everyone, how everything went, any problems you went through. And I'm really curious to see what issues, everyone went through and how they solved them this time. So I'm like, actually, since I heard you guys the most, I'm kind of curious, like George or, you guys, what kind of problems did you guys encounter when you started developing it, the game?
Honestly, I assumed I would be able to figure something out, and I couldn't. The bad thing was that, I didn't have the internet, so I couldn't look up any script reference or anything like that.
Mm.
And, that's about it, really. I just...
So you guys said you were using Playmaker. Was that something like a new decision? Like what made you want to use that versus just,
Playmaker is pretty cool if you, for some things, but some things it just can't do. It's really bad at for instance, we were trying to get a negative transform, and I couldn't figure out how to get it from Playmaker. But it's cool for a lot of things. Like I made a whole AI system in Playmaker, and it was a snap, super easy. But this time around, things
didn't go very well.
Yeah, it just
didn't click. Cool. Like George, I'm kind of curious from like a management standpoint. I was like kind of hearing you going back and forth and checking up on everybody. Did you just like immediately feel that was the position you should have taken, or like?
Today I didn't really feel it at all. I was just kind of seeing what they were up to.
Okay.
But something about the atmosphere of just,
Did you find
just start making stuff and.
Did you find that helped a lot? You guys, when you checking up?
I don't know. Like the atmosphere today was kind of didn't have the same energy as it usually does.
Yeah, I was feeling that.
Yeah. On one hand, it feels like it could have been good if I feel like if I'd come more prepared, maybe. I didn't have anything to contribute when we're running into problems, and I think that's because I haven't actually dealt with code in Unity for a really long time, and it feels kind of like a crappy position to be in.
I see, gotcha. How about you, Justin? I know you were kind of talking a little bit with Jacqueline. She kind of got you guys on, the right path at the beginning. Did you encounter any problems after she left, or was it just smooth sailing from then on out?
It was pretty smooth after she left. It seemed like I got over a lot of the hurdles I had before. It was, I don't know, the first half of it was kind of weird because I was like catching up to where I had already been. I kind of fell out of my tools. So I wasted some time kind of catching up on those, but it went good.
Oh, good. Like you said, you were using the map editor too. Did that really help speed things up if you didn't have a chance to use it?
Yeah, that had to be one of the lesser problems and all that.
Okay.
So yeah, that typically helps out a lot.
Cool. For me, I know the problems that I had was, thanks for Devin to point it out, I didn't eat anything before coming here, and that was a big mistake. I felt like so weak, and kind of like you were saying about the not feeling the vibe, because at the last jam we did, there were like so many people here. It was like this place was packed, and that kind of got me down a little bit. Not to say you guys aren't awesome, you are, but it's just just coming from that to this is like I guess that vibe and the fact that I had no food in me didn't really help any. But after I got some McDonald's, probably not the best choice, I did start to feel better. And also, but then what started to happen is that, kind of like Justin with you, I kind of was out of it too with the Flixel thing. I wasn't feeling it. It just wasn't going right. And things just kept going really wrong. Nothing was working, tons of bugs all the time. And I just do what I keep doing at all these jams. I just said, screw it. And I, just started working off of the broken code and made something new and interesting. Like the whole crazy thing, you got to keep hammering it down to keep the clock going. Well, that was actually because of a whole bunch of bugs. Before, the original idea was to have platforms where you would jump on top of them, and then you would have to get this special timer that you have to jump to, and that would actually give you more time to get to the trophy. But I couldn't get the jumping going. The platforming was just mind-numbing. I couldn't get the blocks just fit on top of each other, so I just screw it all. I just do it all at the door, and I just looked at one piece of code that said the word space, and it's kept staring at it for some reason. Okay, that's what I should do. And then just more ideas kept on coming. Wing Commander for some reason popped up. We decided to throw an error on purpose. I don't know. I saw this cool little feature inside of Flixel that said you could shake the screen. So I said, all right, cool, I can shake the screen. That's why the screen was shaking, because I thought it would look cool. So, I just kept tossing all kinds of ridiculous stuff in there, and then I got a really cool game. So it seems to be a pattern for me, with all these jams. Things go horribly wrong in the beginning, and then I just work with the broken code and I get something cool. So it always happens to last like 2 hours. Not a good way to do it, but anyway, those are the things I ran into. How about you, Devin? What kind of things did you run into?
Thankfully, I actually learned a lot of lessons from previous ones and actually did the right thing this time. A couple of things that went really well was not spending a ton of time on design. We just hashed out stuff, spent maybe 20, 25 minutes on the basic concept, and was like, okay, that's enough to be able to put something on here and start making things move. And then we got the core mechanics up super quick, which was something sometimes I forget to focus on when it comes to the coding part, is actually getting those parts working before worrying about any peripheral stuff. And really didn't even do much peripheral features till the very end after I already polished a lot, which helped. I mean, the mines was something I just added kind of at the last minute, which aren't a big part of the game anyways. But the core mechanic wasn't as fun as I liked, just because it's supposed to have this math aspect to it, but it ends up being this almost feeling out the numbers. But at the same time, I think it's an interesting concept that you get this weird spatial representation of equations that I don't think it's fun as is, but I think with a lot more iterations could be something interesting. So I don't know, maybe I spent too much time polishing something that isn't super fun yet, but it was good to actually get to polish something in a jam for once. So that felt nice.
So I'm really curious, like you said that you were able to get to the core mechanic, get that out there a lot faster this time. How were you able to, what was your process versus the previous ones to get it to it faster?
The big thing was not waiting until we had a lot of features in our heads and in design. A lot of times if we stay in design too long, you'll just keep adding features, keep compounding it, keep thinking about things. Instead of once we had something, okay, that sounds good, let's just jump on it. And the faster you got it coding, the sooner you're actually getting feedback on the idea and actually focusing on that, because it takes your attention away when you're thinking about all the other possible things. And last jam, right there, we did the evolution one, it was too complex of a system, so I ended up building all these systems before I could even test the game. Interesting.
Okay, cool. So, and that's kind of interested, hear from the rest of you guys, when Jam just started up, how did you guys, what was your process for just immediately deciding, okay, this is the mechanic we're gonna do, and we're gonna stick with this and go with it? I mean, did you guys have any hurdles you had to overcome? Did you constantly keep thinking of new ideas, or did you just say, all right, everybody, let's just do this idea and let's just run with it? Anyone have problems with that, or?
Well, I mean, I think that's what we did, but we just want to get the core mechanic to work. I think I kind of came in a little overconfident because I've been doing my own project in Unity. It's been going really well, so I was like, I can do it. I came in here and not quite.
So. It's generally felt that way, that basically just getting started is really important. Otherwise, I've ended up in groups where we end up shooting shit for 15 minutes or 20 minutes and not coming up with a concept, or shifting the concept back and forth, and just basically asking the really important question: the first thing we need, the first problem we need to solve to get some kind of mechanic around what we've been talking about done.
I think it helped being a smaller team for me, because it was just one guy throwing out ideas and you kind of oh, we need to put that. We just let it bounce around until you come up with something that works, as opposed to having a big discussion.
Yeah, I think a rule of thumb is have something. If you don't have something working in an hour, if you don't have that thing going where you have a core concept within an hour, then start something fresh.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get a milestone of half an hour this time, so that way people try to.
We were trying to fix something.
It's pretty much today would have been a good. I mean, it was kind of a lesson in cutting and running, which we didn't.
Yeah, that's absolutely
probably.
Yeah, related to that, I learned from that last couple of times that when I run into problems, I spent an hour trying to fix them or whatever. Yeah. This time I was like, wait, no, I'm not gonna do that again. And there was 2 times I ran into problems that started acting like they were gonna just suck up the whole time. I was like, nope, time to come up with a hack solution. And as soon as I started thinking like that, came up with a solution that was like, I don't care, no one's looking at the code. This is a stupid solution, but it absolutely works. Right away, and I was like, wow, that just made a huge difference, because as soon as you start losing that momentum, it really is draining. On just working, you're just slogging. And then it just you really need to get back to that momentum, I think, as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, any other final things people kind of got from this or want to talk about, or pretty good?
I thought it was fun.
Fun? That's always good to hear.
It's like, you know, you guys are all been doing it more often than me. I haven't been to one of these in a couple of years, but you guys are all like bummed out more. Well, it's fun to me.
So would you say actually that working in smaller teams was easier? Because I know last time you guys had like a ginormous team in there. It seemed like the other one was
It was such a weird day. Like
It really was.
It's impossible to judge in general because
It's true.
I don't know. I felt tired coming in. I didn't eat enough. You know.
Same here. It was.
On top of being surprised by how few people there were.
Yeah, that was quite the shocker.
I think people might be saving themselves for the next one, for the 24-hour game jam. That might be, because it seems to be the main thing that's different about this one, is that it's right before the big one.
Yeah, I certainly hope so.
Yeah, we should hope.
Yeah. So I think that's about it for this one. I think it went pretty well. I mean, in the beginning, I felt like I wanted to shoot myself, but now I feel great. Having food in you is nice, so I'm good. All right.
Another lesson I learned later before we got here.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's about it. Are we good? Cool. All right.
Has anybody in here ever done like a proper 48-hour game jam?
I've done a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're crazy. Did the Games for Health one. They had a jam up there for that at EA. That was nuts. Just like we got very little sleep, and then I did Global Game Jam like before that. Also very little sleep.
Oh yeah.
Like you got to be prepared for the night between the 2 days. You're not gonna get much sleep, like because you're gonna be like, shit, we're so behind. Oh my god. Like that's because day one you are the most behind. Like you're because day two like you're either fucked or you're caught up. Like for day one you're like, so much left to do and it's the end of the day. It's like if you ever watch those reality shows like Project Runway or something and they're working on their shit and they're like 15 minutes and they're like, oh my gosh. Like that. And then like as soon as it gets towards the end too, you're like, it's not polished enough, this is not gonna work.
How much time did you guys need, do you think, for polish? Like if you were to give advice on like how much time to set aside for that?
Oh man, like depends on how complicated, like how much you want like to have like menus and things like that. Like don't even almost. And luckily, like my teammates wanted to code everything like in Flash themselves, like, oh, we'll just code it in Flash Punk or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, you guys do that. I'll just make this prototype to test out the art, like in Construct. And like 8 hours into it, they had nothing. And it was like, oh, I got the game working. Like, we're fine. Like, we got the art in. And we ended up switching over to that. I was like, yeah, even with 48-hour games, you got to use tools. You cannot just code from scratch because you're going to scope up because you have 48 hours. You're going to try and make a whole game and you can screw yourself. Try and actually code that.
Right.
From this experience, I'd say I agree with that because if I knew Stencil or Construct a lot better, I think I would have made much further progress.
I find the more you know it, the easier. Like when you're coming up with ideas, you can think of how to translate that into this. You're like, oh, okay, I know how I'm going to do that.
I think out of the box they have like a simple like jump platform.
Yeah.
Switch the bad guy, which is what I ended up having in mind. So it was dope.
That makes such a huge difference. I never learned so much on like constructs behaviors because I know how to like you can kind of combine them in different ways. And it's like when you're able to think in those, it's a lot easier because you're thinking in code mechanics rather than like how I'm going to code that from scratch. I'm going to make these arrays and fuck that.
Yeah. I always think of these things, the jams, why I like doing them every month, kind of like just training, training for that much bigger thing. So when it finally comes to that day, when we do the big one, that I've learned from all the horrible mistakes I should stay far away from so I can just focus on doing it. So no worries, pretty
It goes
helpful.
much smoother when you actually learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I have right now. It's like in the middle of it, I kind of felt horrible today, just like, oh, this is not going anywhere. But in retrospect, I'm like, you know what? If I learned more, at least on game jams this time around, then
What not to do.
Yeah.
You learn a lot more in 5 hours than you do in like a semester of school. That's for sure.
Yeah. Things like this is.
Yeah.
Here's a separate question. Do you think it makes sense to shoot for what we are normally able to accomplish at these game jams for the first 7 hours of a longer weekend game jam?